actually find quite a bit of time every day to write and still get 8 hours of sleep. I do. I even watch TV. But here's the thing, and I know you were with us when this was happening. Back in August of 2020, my friend Elizabeth Johnston and I uh, held a virtual retreat. And Elizabeth was giving writing prompts and giving us 5 minutes to respond to that prompt. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
And what we discovered, or what I discovered, was that I could get quite a few words in just 5 minutes if I knew what I was writing about.
Sure.
So the other secret is you must have a plan. And then and if you fill those 10-minute or 15-minute gaps with writing rather than with surfing Facebook to no purpose. Now, of course, we're all on Facebook for business reasons, but sometimes we just follow rabbit holes. And if we write instead,
No.
we can actually write quite a few words per day, and they add up.
Definitely. In fact, that's one of the things that gives me hope is knowing one of the places that I write is on the site 750words.com.
Mhm.
And, it's just it's based off the morning pages that Julia Cameron talks about in The Artist's Way.
Yes.
But just writing 750 words every day, and I've been doing it for going on 8 years now,
Mhm.
and I've written 2+ million words in that amount of time. And it usually takes me, I would say, probably about 15 minutes to write those 750 words.
Mhm.
Sometimes it might be 20 minutes, but usually around 15 minutes, right?
Mhm.
And 2 million words is an awful lot of words. I mean, it's
Mhm.
depending on what kind of book you're writing, it could be many books.
Oh, definitely. So the first year I wrote for publication, I tracked and I wrote 850,000 words that year, and that amounted to 9 books.
Mm,
Now, I know that one of your books is fantasy, and those books are a little longer. Romance books are quite a bit shorter. Thrillers fall in between.
sure.
So it totally depends on genre, and business books can be quite short. But they say you're an expert writer if you've written 1 million words. So congratulations.
There's my claim to fame. I've written a million word, actually 2 million words, and that doesn't even begin to include all the other stuff that I write. So it,
Oh, right. We don't tend to count the texts that we send or what we comment on Facebook with. And if we did, we'd find we are writing plenty of words to get a book written. It's just being intentional about what words you write. Of
yes,
course, I hinted on it. I prefer that we have a plan.
sure,
I am not a by the seat of your pants writer. I know you might be, but if you have even a modest plan of an outline with a few chapter headings, you can make more progress if you know what you're going to write before you start writing.
yes. Yeah, I'm neither a pantser nor a plotter. I'm somewhere in between, some kind of hybrid, and I don't know. I haven't dissected that enough to specify where exactly that is. And it really depends on what I'm writing. When I'm writing fiction, one of the ways that I'm making up the story is by just writing, right? It's and when I write my 750 words, I don't have any plan as to what I'm writing. In fact, the only thing that's planned and that is consistent about when I'm writing those 750 words is that I always start out with ding, 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 dong, and then write.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, 8, 9 words. Because what I've found is that, a blank screen or a blank page is um, can be awfully intimidating. And I've done this thousands of times, right?
Mm-hmm.
And still, every time I get to the blank screen, it's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to write today? So if I just write something silly, ding, 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 dong, I'm getting, my fingers are in motion. I'm getting something on the screen and it's no longer a blank screen. And
that brings to mind several things, uh, and I'll save the most fun for the last. But um, I think it was F. Scott Fitzgerald, but it's been attributed to many people. I only write when the muse is present.
Mm.
Fortunately for me, I make sure she's present every morning at 9 a.m. So having that those 5 words or however many it comes out to be triggers your brain to let the words flow. You have established that habit, and now it's a trigger. So there's nothing wrong with that, and I would count those words. But the fun thing I wanted to tell you is back in the 1940s, I believe, there was a book published called We Capture the Castle.
Hmm.
And it was a book about some sisters who had fallen on impoverished times because their father, who was a writer, had writer's block and he couldn't write. And they captured him and put him in a dungeon and fed him, pulled the ladders up, fed him by sending a bucket down, and they sent paper and pen down. And they told him that he could come out when he had written something.
Mm.
And one of the girls finally said, write anything, write, you know, ding, 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 dong, Actually, it was something like, it reminded me of a Dr. Seuss book, write the cat sat on the mat. And that he started writing that over and over again and eventually created a book out of it. So that was kind of a fun story. But and now that I'm a writer, I wonder if the writer who wrote that book had found herself in the same boat and used that as an inspiration to write her story.
Mm. Yeah. Well, it's
Um,
interesting. I just watched the movie Stranger Than Fiction last week with my wife, and part of that story is about this novelist who's got writer's block, right? And she, in her novels, her protagonist dies in the end, and she didn't know how to kill her hero, right? And so she's going through the whole movie trying to figure out how to kill this guy off. And
Obviously not a romance book.
well, it actually was, but well,
Do that in a
the
romance.
movie was a romance. The novel that she was writing was not a romance.
Okay, good.
In fact, part of the story was, well, and what happens is that she's writing this novel and her character is an actual living person, and as she's writing, he can hear her narrating the story that she is writing, right? And
Oh
so
my.
he's standing there brushing his teeth, and she's talking about, Harold Crick always brushes his teeth 37 times, whatever. And, and he's like, who's saying that? He's talking to
I
whatever the
have to watch
narrator
this
is.
movie. It sounds like fun.
It is a fun movie. But, that writer's block of, how do you tell the story when you don't know what comes next, and honestly, I'm dealing with a little bit of that myself with my fantasy novel.
Mhm.
I've written, I don't know, it's something at least 60,000 words on it, but I'm still trying to figure out, well, how do all the pieces come together, right? It's kind of, there are points in the story where I don't know what happens next. Um,
So
and
this is the
obviously, I am
problem
not a
with pantsing the novel.
right, exactly, and that was exactly what I was going to get into. Is when you have the plan for it, it's easier to say what happens next. The
Mhm.
problem for me is the even when I and half the words that I've written have been planning it out, but and I'm curious as to how this shows up for you, but especially writing fiction is that my plan, no matter how well laid out it is constantly changing. I mean, it's not this static plan that
Characters have a tendency to misbehave, but in my opinion, and there are many pantsers who will disagree with me, but in my opinion, you at least have to know the beginning and the end of the story. and then you can maybe figure out how to get there. There's a plotting technique called the W plot that
Mm.
it's a very simple way of doing a 3-act story, which is what we in the Western world are very accustomed to and expect. And so it starts with the inciting event. It has falling action. It has rising action to the middle. And then it has falling action again to the black moment.
Hmm.
And then the last segment of the W is how things resolve.
Sure.
And you can, if you can get those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points, you can extrapolate what happens between each point. And when you said you don't know how it shows up for me, in the beginning, I was co-writing with a gentleman who would give me a 30 to 50,000 word, what he called outline.
Mm.
And some of it was just telling me, I want this to happen in this chapter. And some of it, he had written out the chapters. I merely needed to make them fit.
Mm.
And then when I started writing on my own, I found that I needed a crutch. And that crutch turned out to be Blake Snyder's Save the Cat,
Mm.
as translated by Jody, can't remember her last name, but she writes, she creates a lot of templates for different types of genres, and she had created one for a romance novel,
Mm.
and um, and I used that to very, very deeply define my scenes, even
Sure.
so many scenes of this many words. But the more I wrote, the more it became instinctive for me. So now I just use W plot.
Nice.
But that's fiction. And you had asked about entrepreneurs, and not all entrepreneurs are writing fiction. They're
Right.
writing books that have something to do with enhancing their credibility or creating their know, like, and trust factor among their ideal audience.
Right.
And your memoir is going to be something that will do that for your business. It's
Sure.
what Elizabeth Johnston calls a mission memoir, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, you're right.
Why you do what you do, how you got there, and your story is an integral part of that. So, um, that's what I would like our entrepreneurs to know, that there are books. I'm actually creating a workshop with a, a young woman, a younger woman. She's actually not a young woman, but um, she teaches how to write a 36-page book
Mm.
to enhance your business, but it also becomes the outline for your longer book.
Okay.
And I actually prefer the longer books. So we're getting together with a workshop that will have some guidance on how to create that short book, and then some guidance on how to layer and fill in until you have your mission memoir. So I'm very
Sure.
excited about that.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, it
And
won't be ready until June or so.
okay.
Um, I'm, I'm buried in webinars and starting my course up again a week from tomorrow,
Wow.
right
Okay.
now.
Well, do keep, you're an active member of this Facebook group, so do keep us informed
Oh,
as to,
definitely.
and for those of you who aren't watching on the Facebook group, that is, that Facebook group is the Art of Entrepreneurship, uh, which is a lively group of people who are out to make a difference in the world.
I-
And
you post very engaging questions and beautiful illustrations to go with them. So it's a pleasure being a part of that group, Steve.
well, thank you, Cheri. I appreciate it. And I am grateful for all those who are part of it, because without you, the the group would not be a group. So
Yes, I'm going to have to get you to tell me how to get more engagement in my group, because yours is quite lively.
well, it was a process of trial and error, honestly, um, but I would be happy to share my ideas there. On the last thing that I to kind of wrap up, and maybe we can summarize what we've talked about so far. One, just be really, actually, I'll turn the time over to you. How would you summarize? What would your main points be about how do you find the time to write while you're living a busy life?
Well, actually, Steve, you've been through the course twice, so you know the answers to this. And it starts with being intentional about why you want the book and for whom you want to write it and what those people want to know. And then you can plan your book so that when you have those little spaces of time, you can write it. And it doesn't have to be linear. You can write whatever you want to address on that particular day based on the inspiration your day has given you. But it comes back to being intentional. If you want the book and if you want it badly enough, you can find the time to write it.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm wondering if there, as I think about it and thinking about your W diagram for fiction,
W plot,
I'm thinking that there's probably something similar for nonfiction, depending on what that subject
Oh,
is.
definitely, absolutely. Elizabeth's idea, and I've seen it for many people, including the person I'm creating a workshop with, is get your 10 chapters in mind. That doesn't have to be the end, but if you can sort of outline your story on a high level in 10 chunks, you've got a great start going.
Sure.
And the W plot goes along with the 3-act, somewhat the hero's journey.
Right.
And of course, all entrepreneurs are the heroes of their own journey. So that's not a bad structure. You just have to adapt it for nonfiction.
Right. And that's exactly what I do is I think about story not only from a fictional point of view, but what is this, kind of like Harold Crick in the Stranger Than Fiction, who's the narrator of the life that I'm living right now, and
Exactly.
how do we take control of that pen so that we can create the outcome that we desire, not only for ourselves as the heroes of our own story, but also for our audience as the heroes of their story. So,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
as we become the heroes of our own story, we become the guides for somebody else's story. So,
That's right. So as I've been alluding to, this is the whole thrust of my course. I don't, as you know, I don't teach craft other than touching on it for revision.
sure.
Uh, it's the business aspects of what you do before you start to write that I teach. But some of the entrepreneurs who are maybe watching this or watching the replay might want to know why they would want a book in the first place.
Sure.
And so I'd like to answer that question if I may.
Of course. Yes.
Um, about almost 3/4 of the population of the US, at least, maybe of North America, believes they would like to write a book someday. And of course, as you know, far, far fewer do it. But when you have a purpose for the book, when you want to make the world better, when your business is about that, about impacting lives, then the book becomes another way to get your message out. It also becomes a client attraction vehicle. So there are certain things that you can do in your book, particularly in an ebook, that will enhance that reason for having the book. So my opinion is that virtually every heart-centered entrepreneur needs to have a book. And it's part of my mission to not only inspire them to write their stories, because I have yet to have a student whose book doesn't fascinate me and excite me and make me want to say, hurry up and get that thing published. I want to read it. So not only to inspire that, but also to uh, help them not waste their time going around in circles, not knowing what to do,
Sure.
to get it written and perfected and published where it will do them some good. So
Absolutely. And one of the things I oftentimes business books are termed as, you know, a $10 or $20 business card, but I think it's so much more than that. I'm a really good book that, you know, has a strong message really can change your life. I mean, it's one of the reasons I read as much as I do, because, you know, every book that I read changes my life in some little way. You know,
it impacts you, and a business card doesn't. You
right,
know, there's a business card is a cold thing that gives your name and phone number and maybe a tagline.
right,
But a book can show your heart, and you know it takes it would take a genius of a writer to write a book that did not reflect their personality and who they are. You can read between the lines and say, you know, I don't like this person. I don't like this author. You can also read between the lines and say, I really like this author and I really want to know more.
mm,
And I'd like to get in their circle. I want to get on their Facebook page. I want to get on their email list. I want to hear more. And there's the start of a beautiful relationship if you leverage it for that purpose. So, and leverage might be a really cold word to use, but the point is that the written word has been for centuries how we learn and how we get to know each other. And even though we have this technology now where I feel like I know you, I feel like we've been friends, real friends, and yet we have never met face to face other than on Zoom.
right, yes,
So it's, you know, COVID has been a horrible thing, but it has had some silver linings, and one of those is that it's put everyone on a virtual platform where you can really get to know someone.
yes, absolutely. Yeah, and you know, I think that's one of the beautiful things about the technology we have, but also about the age old now, you know, technology of books. You know, I mean, at one time, just publishing, just having access to a book was the miracle that, you know, having Zoom is today. You know,
That's right. The people
and
didn't have their own books.
some of those books are still in publication. You know, one of the reasons I want to publish my book is because I know that the shelf life of this technology that we're using right now is much, much, much shorter than, you know, an actual book is. You know,
So
we
far,
have,
I'm
and
reading science fiction right now. You know, you never know where this is going.
well, currently, I know that a Facebook Live doesn't have,
Oh, you mean each piece of content? Absolutely.
right.
Right.
Yes.
I thought you meant the technology itself.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean each piece is much shorter. I mean, we have works from, you know, Shakespeare or from, you know, uh,
And before
right,
we have works from Socrates.
exactly, that, you know, that still exist. And, you know, I just think even though technology continues to change, I think we will continue to have value and benefit from the power of the written word, right?
Oh, I totally agree. And the medium by which you read that written word may differ, and you may not even read it. You may hear it
Right. Yes,
as an audio book, but it can still be timeless if the message is timeless.
absolutely.
So, terrific observation there. Yes.
Thank you, Cheri. I appreciate your time today. Is there anywhere we can direct our audience so that they can learn more about you, about what you offer, and how they can turn their words into gold?
Absolutely. And, you know, it occurs to me that I probably should have gotten the URL so that I could put it in the
Well,
chat box for you, but they won't see that. So, uh, may I put a URL to register for one of my webinars in the comments below the
Absolutely. Yes, definitely.
slide? That would be great. So there are 5 webinars left to go before the course starts a week from tomorrow.
Wow.
I would love it if people just came and hung out with me. I'm still a little shaky on those webinars, but I do believe the information is valuable, and
Excellent.
there are juicy bonuses for staying to the end of the webinar. So,
Wonderful. Thank you, Cheri. Yes, please put the link to that in the comments below this Facebook Live.
okay.
And of course, we'll see you in the group and, see you around. I'm grateful for your time.
Oh, and I'm grateful for your friendship and support. So, Mutual Admiration Society there. Get that
Very
book
good.
published. I can't wait to read it.
It's coming along. I'm blessed to have a one of the things also that has really helped me, and this is my parting thought for today, is that one of the benefits that I got from attending, probably, I'm not sure if it was the one with Elizabeth or but one of the events that I've attended with you, I met the person who is now my accountability partner with writing. And so she and I are trading chapters. We
Yes,
send a chapter to each other right currently every couple of weeks, to get each other's feedback. But just having that accountability partner, having a writing accountability partner has helped me to keep the ball moving forward with the
that's
book.
great. And I had hoped that would happen. I know who you're talking about, and you met her first in the virtual retreat, but then she attended the second um, session of the class. So,
Yes.
uh, yeah, that's terrific. I'm so happy to hear that from both ends of the story. I knew you were accountability. You were trading words, or reporting that your daily words, but I didn't know you were trading chapters. So I love hearing that. Thank you for saying
Yeah. We just started doing that. So, but it worked well. The first time we did it, today we're actually be doing it again. So yes, it's been very good. And I want
okay.
to end, I want to value everybody that's watching this, your time, and give you maybe a few minutes for you to go out and work on your own books.
Yes, go write some words.
No, thank you, Cheri.
Thank you,
And I
Steve.
will see the rest of you on the internet. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.